What's up, guys? It's Brandon Flash. Today you're joining me with my 2023 Tesla Model Y all-wheel drive 4680 battery pack. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina. We're actually at a new Tesla supercharger that's under construction. We'll get to that in a second. But today we're heading straight north. We're actually heading to West Virginia because I need to get some Starbucks mugs that they're discontinuing from the Been There series in Virginia and in West Virginia. And we're going to make it a charging stop trip along the way. So like I said, this is my 2023 Tesla Model Y all-wheel drive, has the 4680 battery pack, standard range. I have it wrapped in Steck Dyno Prism. We've got some aftermarket aero covers, Tempest style like the Model S. Those are from EV Base, some other cosmetic modifications. You guys know this car. But we're actually at the new Tryon Street Tesla supercharger. And this site has version 4 posts being installed. So as you guys can see there, this is a 16 stall site. And what's interesting here is that these actually do not have payment terminals. So if you can see there, normally there would be a payment terminal underneath the handle, but there actually isn't one here. So different variation than we've seen before on these version 4 posts. They're pretty visually obtrusive, I'd say. They're a lot larger, taller. You can't see through them like you can with version 3. So not a huge fan from that perspective. This site definitely needs some finishing work. So you can see they still need to do some paving around the concrete pads, and we're missing a transformer still all the way over there. You can see where the transformer will go, where those wires are coming up. But we do have the posts wired up. We have the cabinets wired up. We have the AC distribution cabinet behind them. And I've definitely tweeted some pictures of the site before. So if you're not already, definitely follow me on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, because I make posts about things like this fairly frequently that I don't necessarily make videos about. But this should be an interesting site. I think the cover or the little signs there showing use other side or 250 kilowatt, I think will actually lead to confusion. And in my opinion, they mounted the pedestals or posts reverse of how they should be to kind of be more flexible for the most amount of vehicles, especially non-Teslas. These do have Magic Dock, but again, they don't have payment terminals. So this should be a pretty interesting site to follow. This is pretty close to me, so I'll definitely be keeping an eye on the site. We also have a Wi-Fi antenna on that post there, if you can see that. So that should be helpful. Yeah, curious to see how this site does. It's at a Lowe's, which I still think is a bit of a strange site host for Tesla supercharging. I don't know. I don't know what the overlap is between people shopping at Lowe's and people that are driving Teslas on a road trip. So, and Lowe's doesn't have the best hours. I mean, they're open pretty early, but not that late. So, a little strange. There are some restaurants and stuff over here. So we've got an IHOP, a Panera, there's a Qdoba. So from that perspective, it makes sense. But the actual site host itself is a little strange in my opinion. But let me show you what our plan is for today. We've got a lot of charging stops planned. We do have the new UI here. So this is on the spring update. So we're on version 12.3.6 FSD version, but we're on 2024.14.9. But yeah, here's our general route. I don't know why it changed that. So let's turn the AC down. So we're in Charlotte over here. We're going to be going around 485. I'm going to take you to a Circle K along the way. I want to show you guys that site. That's actually a site I worked on in my previous role. We'll then stop in Mount Airy, North Carolina. That's a Tesla supercharger site, also at a Circle K, but that's not why we're stopping there. That's a version 3. We have quite a few stops in the Wytheville area. So we're going to be going to the Pilot Flying J EVgo site. We're going to be going to the Circle K. We're going to be going to the supercharger, the Electrify America, and there's a Starbucks there, so we need to grab a mug. And then we're going to be heading north on 77 up to West Virginia. And conveniently, the supercharger is actually located at the Starbucks there. And then we're going to head back south. We're going to come down to the North Lake Center supercharger, which is under expansion. So definitely watch this video through the end. It's not just going to be a drive back. We're actually going to stop at some superchargers on the way back. So we'll stop there. That site is being doubled in size with version 4 posts. And then because I don't have home charging at the moment, we're going to be stopping at the supercharger nearby and topping off before I head home, so that way I don't arrive dead. So all in all, this should be, looks like about a 8-hour day or so, especially once you added some charging. Our first stop will be rolling in with 28%. Well, I guess that's the Circle K. So we'll be charging in Mount Airy at 25%. We'll probably just very briefly plug in. I did reset my trip here when I left, so we'll have full stats there. And there you can see we're at 27,500 miles on my Model Y. So definitely piling on the miles, and the efficiency is improving the longer I have it, which is interesting. So let's get on the road. We've got a lot of stops to make, a lot of mileage to cover. It's about a 400-mile road trip, and looking forward to having you guys join me. We're at 74% right now, and yeah, 94 miles to the Circle K, and then not that much farther to the supercharger there, about 10 minutes up the road. Well, we've arrived in Dobson, North Carolina. We're at the Circle K with 180 kilowatt ABB Terra 184 HC. So that means that they have the 400 amp cables. Actually 300 amp nominal, but they output up to 400 amps as a boost function. Since I've been here last, they've actually removed the ChargePoint CPE 250. And I wanted to talk about pricing a little bit of charging on some of these sites as well. So the ChargePoint until last week was actually 43 cents a kilowatt hour, except for 6 hours a day. So I believe it was 12 to 6 p.m. It was actually 86 cents a kilowatt hour, which is just crazy. Must be demand charge related, even though the CPE 250 was actually owned and operated by Surrey Yadkin EMC, which is the local electricity co-op. So a little bit strange. There is also some new signage here that looks really nice. EV charging on the light poles. So as far as this site goes, you have your primary line coming down here. So that's your high voltage down. You have your transformer. I don't recall what the size of this transformer is. I believe it's 1,000 kVA if I remember correctly. I was actually involved in the building of this site. This one is actually a 1,500 kVA. So this is a very oversized transformer for the current connected load. So this site could very easily be expanded with significantly more capacity. You have a CT cabinet here, since this actually did feed the other one as well. So they had to do this as kind of a sub-meter type assembly. Otherwise, this would be metered at the transformer. And likely if there's significantly more connected load, they would probably remove this, meter at the transformer with CTs inside the transformer, and then just have the distribution cabinet directly connected to the transformer. That's pretty normal down here in the Southeast. Not as common in other regions of the country. This is a 2,000 amp switchgear. It says 1,200 amp because it's actually artificially limited, but it's 2,000 amp frame. And then each one of these, they are future-proof for additional capacity as well. And there are additional positions that were already built ready for more chargers to be installed. And the reason that these are out in front of the curb rather than behind the curb, which is more typical, is because you have this elevation drop off back here. So if you were to put the chargers back here, you'd have to basically build up a retaining wall. And that would have added a lot of complexity to this installation. These Circle K chargers, they're 49 cents a kilowatt hour to use, which is pretty reasonable. And you can see that, I believe, if you go in here. Let's see if I can remember where that shows on the screen. Let's hit start. Sorry, 55 cents a kilowatt hour via payment terminal. But the difference is that that's tax inclusive, whereas the app price of 49 cents a kilowatt hour is plus tax. So that's where a bit of that discrepancy comes in as well. So a little bit complicated. And this site was actually awarded by the NCDQ, so Department of Environmental Quality, I believe that stands for. So they had some VW funds that were part of making this site possible. And this is right off the interstate, which you can see right there. Not the nicest Circle K, but has restrooms, snacks, and I believe is 24/7 or at least very long hours. So a good spot for EV charging as you're heading north from Charlotte. So far we've covered 103 miles, 299 watt-hour per mile. Next up, we're headed to another Circle K, which has a version 3 Tesla supercharger, 12 stall, or maybe 8 stall, I don't 100% recall. We'll look in a second. 8 stalls. So we'll be there in about 10 minutes, and then we're going to charge for a whopping 5 minutes before we head up then to Wytheville, Virginia, where we'll have multiple stops. And I actually realized that the Princeton supercharger is at Starbucks, so it doesn't get much more convenient than that. Well, first actual charging stop, we're at 23% state of charge. I'm going to turn on Keep Climate. We've driven 110 miles, 126 on this charge. I did actually charge to 100%, but there was also quite a bit of standby parked energy use, which you can actually see in this screen. So 13% was used while parked, and then drive since last charge. So 63% was used. So that's 86% total, which doesn't quite add up since I charged to 100%. So not 100% sure what's going on there, but anyway, we are averaging 299 watt-hour per mile on this drive so far today. Let's get plugged in. I'll give you guys a walkthrough of this site. Looks like this handle's been replaced relatively recently. I don't know. Let's see what kind of charging speeds we get. They actually just redid the charging screen a little bit, so they changed that. Let's see what we ramp up to. And we're still dropping like a rock, like 4680 Model Y does. So we'll charge up a bit. I'm just going to run and use the restroom and stuff. We don't really need to be here more than a couple minutes. Let's see how many miles it is up to Pilot. So it's 43 miles. So we'd already arrived there with 4%. And this Wytheville supercharger is only a version 2. So don't really want to stop there if I don't have to, but I'll still, or don't really want to charge there if I don't have to. But anyway, let me give you guys a tour. So that has the same EV charging signs like the Dobson Circle K. So Circle K must just be rolling those out at all sites that have EV charging. They actually look pretty darn nice. So glad to see them doing that. They are sun fading a little bit, which is not the best thing to see. But this is an 8 stall version 3, so 250 kilowatt max per post. And then over here, so we have the transformer, we have the distribution cabinet, and we have the 2 supercharger cabinets. So this should be a 1200 amp cabinet. Yes, it is, and has 2 600 amp branch circuits in it for each of the cabinets. Not the best labeling, just Sharpie onto the cabinet, but I guess it works. And then we have the transformer over here. This should be a 750 kVA, and it is in fact a 750. And we've got the 8 posts in a row with this retaining wall. Looks like a truck hit that, which is concerning. And we have an ADA stall here as well. Let's see if they have the additional grab point like they sometimes do. And it does not. So sometimes Tesla will put like an additional grab point here to make it ADA compliant and lower the handle height, but they did not in this case. And this stall is just completely kind of falling apart, which is not great to see. But that is just the Tesla way, I guess. Well, we charge up to 50% in 10 minutes. We're still at 80 kilowatts at 50%, which is really not great. Looks like we have a fair amount of traffic going into Wytheville, so going to unplug and then we'll get on the road. Handle's a bit toasty, actually. Interestingly, we've got the instructions for non-Tesla operation, even though the site is not open to non-Tesla use. So it looks like 53 minutes, 43 miles in order to make it to the Pilot Flying J. Probably not going to charge there, but that's the EVgo site, so 51%. Just arrived to the Flying J with EVgo chargers. There's a sweet R1T leaving. They are from, can't tell where that plate is from. No idea. I had actually put in the wrong Flying J into my nav. There's another one up here, Pilot Travel Center, but it's actually the one on this exit, which I drove in because I came up this way actually, so that's convenient. And then we'll actually be able to go to Circle K there. Hopefully we don't actually have to go around that way. I don't really know. Anyway, let me give you guys a tour of this site. We're not going to charge. But worth noting that it actually would be faster to charge here than it would be to use the Tesla supercharger in Wytheville, because the Wytheville supercharger is only a V2. So this one's 57 cents a kilowatt hour, so worth noting there. 0% tax, which is interesting. So that's kind of cool to note. And it definitely has the Pilot Flying J branding on it. This screen is a little hard to see in the direct sun. Let's see, down. Those are the only options. And then you can also use auto charge. So yeah, there's no branding on these, which was a bit strange. We've got the van accessible stall here that I'm plugged in. I'm not going to plug in, so I'm just here for a minute. We do have an emergency stop here, so I essentially could take the site down-ish to anyone that is not aware. And EVgo would actually have to send a truck out here in order to reset those, or I guess they could call the store if they have that relationship, but I'm not sure if they do. But I'll give you guys a quick walkthrough of the infrastructure here. It's pretty typical EVgo. So we've got a couple different pads here. I'm not entirely sure where the primary is coming in from, but we have a 750 kVA transformer. The utility here is AEP, so American Electric Power. You've got the transformer wherever that primary line is coming in. It might actually be underground. You then have the power coming from the transformer into the distribution cabinet here. There are no labels that I can tell as far as what the current rating is. Oh, 1200 amp. I just didn't get to the right side. So 1200 amps, which means that each one of those is 600 amps, which makes sense for the 350 kilowatts. And then let's see if these are actually NEVI compliant. So 500 amp max. I don't know if that's per channel or total, because if that's total, that's pretty bad. Then over here, so it's 540 plus 540, 175, 175. So these can do apparently 1,080 amps or up to 350 kilowatts. But that conflicts with this, which says 500 amps plus 200 amps. So I'm really not sure what to believe here, but either way, not super great if it's 200 amps on one of the channels. We've got a Model Y driving by down there. We also had a Model Y over there a moment ago, or maybe it was the same one. But a little bit interesting. You also have the step down here from 480 to 120, 208, because these actually need auxiliary power. And we'll go to the dispensers here. You also have dried out buckets, so not great. And here we have the dispensers. These are 500 plus 200 amp max, which will lead to a pretty bad experience, actually, in my opinion, because if one car is pulling over 200 amps, then the other car only gets 200 amps. So you could have a car pulling 201 amps, and then the other car will only get 200 because of that 500-200 split. It does appear that both of them are working. We've got an electrical box there of some sort. Also have one over there, so maybe they're planning for additional capacity. And it does appear that all four of the positions are working. So overall, pretty good site. No real complaints. Pricing seems reasonable, albeit on a bit on the high side. And then we're actually going to go to the Circle K that you can see from here, just right over there. Well, we're at the Wytheville Circle K. Been helping some drivers here. We've got a Silverado 3WT. We have a Solterra. So there were some issues with charging, but got them both charging. And let me give you guys a tour here. So we have power coming in up there. So those are actually pole mount transformers. Coming down here, board underneath. We're then coming to this CT cabinet. So that's where the metering is happening for billing. You've got your actual utility meter here. Then it's coming to the distribution cabinet. So that's where your breakers are. This is a 2000 amp cabinet. And then each one of these chargers has a 300 amp circuit. These are the ABB Terra 184 HC. So 300 amp cables, 400 amp boost. Let's see what this Silverado is getting. Should be getting, yeah, 175. Actually started out a lot lower, but then it's been basically 180 flat since like 19%, so that's pretty awesome. Solterra does not charge that well. It's the same as the BZ4X all-wheel drive. It's actually getting 103 kilowatt, which is pretty acceptable, I'd say, actually. And then this site is actually future-proofed for 4 more dual-port units, if you'll notice here. So this site can handle a lot of capacity in the future, which is pretty awesome. So let's head to the Wytheville supercharger, head to Starbucks, and then continue on. Well, we're at the Wytheville supercharger version 2 6 stall, which is not that common these days. We're going to be sharing power with this Model 3 next to us. We've got a Model 3, Model Y, Model 3. One open stall of the 6 stalls. We should be getting about 70 something kilowatts. Let's see what we get. Handshake does take a little bit longer on version 2 than it does on version 3, but it's still very reasonable, under 30 seconds generally. And I'll try and see if I can give you guys a little bit of a tour of the infrastructure, but most of it's in a little bit of a cage over there. See what we ramp up to. Normally it does kind of a staged ramp in my experience on version 2, as it kind of frees up power from the other car. And we're just going to be charging here for a couple minutes. I don't think we actually have to charge here at all, realistically. Let's see. Yeah, we'd be fine to get to the supercharger with 5%, but we'll probably charge up to 30% and then head on out since we have decent buffer. But I'll show you guys the infrastructure and then we'll continue. And realistically, if I wasn't doing a video, I maybe wouldn't have even stopped here. We've got the old school infrastructure over here. 3 version 2 cabinets. Can hear them cranking away. We've got the gateway that they've retrofitted on all version 2 sites in there. You can see the shrouds, if you will, kind of hidden in there. Wants to focus. And we've got the distribution cabinet there, and then the transformer should be around here somewhere. Looks like we might actually be sharing a service. We've got the meter there. Transformer is probably actually in here. Yep, transformer is... Actually, no, that's a dumpster. Never mind. I don't really know where the transformer is. It must be somewhere around here. But doesn't really matter. Probably 750 kVA would be my guess. But we'll charge up to 30% and then we'll continue on. Been a while since I've been here. 4 minutes later, we charged from 24 to 31%, and we are headed to Sheetz. There's Electrify America. I've shown it to you guys before, but we'll stop by quick. And then it's actually across the street from the Starbucks, so not a big detour. And then I'll be buying some mugs in there. Then we'll head to the Starbucks in Princeton, West Virginia. And that Princeton, West Virginia is actually where the supercharger is. So that is extremely convenient. See how we get out of here. I think it's like this way out of here. See you guys at Electrify America. Well, we got one Starbucks mug of the Discovery series for Virginia, but they did not have any Been There series mugs. So looks like we're going to be adding a stop after the West Virginia location. I don't know why it's showing up like that, but that's a Starbucks. And then we'll head back down to Charlotte, assuming that they have one. Otherwise, there is another Starbucks somewhere in here-ish. So we might have to stop there. But we're at the Sheetz, the Electrify America. So there's a 4-stall here. There is an e-Golf, a Bolt, and a Model Y charging, which is a very interesting combination. Not one I've seen before. These are older ABB Terra HP dispensers. Then we've got the upstream infrastructure over here. There are two 150 kilowatt and two 350 kilowatt. Technically, those 150 kilowatt units are actually 175 kilowatts. But Electrify America kind of standardizes their naming scheme because the BTC hardware is actually only 150 kilowatts. So you can see here, they're actually future-proof to add two more cabinets. There's a big spider web there, so I'm not walking through there. But they could add two more cabinets and make them all 350 kilowatt units because there are 6 of the 175 kilowatt cabinets there. I believe the transformer's over here. Yep, it is. 1500 kVA. There's your meter, there's your distribution cabinet, and then each one of those likely has a 300 amp circuit to it. So you have 3 times 6, so 1800 amps as far as connected load. So that's probably a 2000 amp cabinet, maybe higher rated, hard to say. But it's probably ready for those 2 additional cabinets. So probably actually 2500, something like that. But yeah, this is a brand new Sheetz. This site was actually closed for a while, and that's what caused that Circle K to be built so quickly, or at least the charging installation there. But kind of curious why this Model Y is charging here. This is actually 56 cents a kilowatt hour. And I forgot to mention pricing. So Circle K was 43 cents a kilowatt hour. The Tesla version 2 site was 40 cents a kilowatt hour. And then this Electrify America site, at least as far as rack pricing goes, so without a discount plan or OEM plan or anything like that, 56 cents a kilowatt hour, so 1 cent cheaper than the EVgo Pilot Flying J site at 57 cents a kilowatt hour, but still definitely on the higher, pricier end. But just like that, we're going to get on the road because we have another Starbucks to go to. That is one heck of a traffic jam that I have no idea why exists, so that's interesting. We're going to get going, and hopefully we don't sit in too much traffic where that might be unpleasant. Well, we've made it to Princeton, West Virginia. Let's see what the price is here. I'm not really sure. 39 cents a kilowatt hour, so pretty reasonable, pretty in line with everyone else. We'll see what Starbucks mugs they have here. Otherwise, we'll be going to this one. This one's in Virginia. We've got Starbucks right there. We are at 6%, as I mentioned. Let's get plugged in. It's an 8-stall version 3 site. Fairly new, I believe. Let's see what we get. I don't think we'll get full power. Let's see what happens. I'm guessing we'll hit about 210 and then it will drop pretty much instantly. Wow, 214, look at that. 216. And there we go, dropping as expected. So we'll charge up here. I think we only technically need to charge about 15 minutes here to make it to Mount Airy. But plan is a little bit dependent on which Starbucks mugs the Starbucks has. So I'm going to place a mobile order for a drink and some food while we're charging up. This is very convenient that Starbucks is at the supercharger. And then we'll continue on. We charged up to 63% and we are headed to another Starbucks in Bluefield, Virginia. So staying in Virginia, or going back to Virginia, and then we're heading a bit west, and then we'll head south from there. Well, so far we have gotten a Virginia Discovery series. So that's the new mug series from Starbucks. We've gotten a West Virginia Been There series, which is the actual Target here. So West Virginia there. For a moment, I thought they didn't have one, but then the guy looked in the back for me and ended up finding one. And then we just came to this food city in Bluefield, Virginia, which is basically right on the border here of West Virginia and Virginia. And I found a Virginia ornament, but not the full size, unfortunately. So we are adding another stop at a Starbucks in Galax, or I don't know how you pronounce it, along the way down here. So we'll do there, and then we'll go to Mount Airy and then down. So kind of taking a detour there, and I'm going to stop at this overlook along the way. Looks like a pretty route back rather than just taking the kind of state highway route back. And start making our way back. Looks like it's going to be pretty late arrival, but that's fine. We're going to stop at the North Lake, and then we'll charge up at Torrington Way. And just like that, we are heading back into West Virginia to then go back to Virginia. That's how close we were to the border. Take it. Well, unfortunately, no luck on the full-size Virginia Bender Series mug, so we're headed to the Mount Airy, North Carolina supercharger. We'll arrive there with 9%, and it's about 29 miles. We're currently at 2,400 feet elevation, so we'll lose some elevation on the way there. This food city is actually shockingly nice in Galax, Virginia, so pretty surprised by that. We've arrived to Mount Airy, 105 miles since the last charge. Great efficiency because of a lot of downhill. We lost about 2,500 feet of elevation, something like that. And we're going to charge here for about 15 minutes before we drive 82 miles to North Charlotte. So let's get plugged in. And yeah, we're back at Mount Airy. It's cooling down a little bit outside, down to 77 degrees, which is actually really nice. And then we'll get back on the road. Ramped up to 190 kilowatts. We'll see how the charging goes here. Already ramping down pretty aggressively. Well, it took 19 minutes to go from 16 to 60%, even though the car was telling me it would take less time, which was really annoying. But we're headed south to Charlotte to the North Lake supercharger where they have V4 posts. Last time I was there, they were in a box still. We'll see if they're installed. If they are, I'll show you guys, and we'll see if they have payment terminals or not. So far, 312 miles driven. So we're definitely going to be crossing over 400 miles on this trip. And let's get to it because the sun is setting. And yeah. We've arrived to the North Lake supercharger. Let's see what the price is here. There are 4 stalls available. We're at 36 cents a kilowatt hour now because we're between 7 and 11 p.m. But 41 at max or on peak. Driven 395 miles so far, and this site is nearly full, and we're at 15%. So let's see what we get, see if we're site limited, and then we'll go over to the new V4 stalls, see how things are looking over there. We're plugged in. See what we get. Contactors clicking already. And surprisingly, we're actually getting full power. I'm impressed with that. I'm surprised there's enough capacity available on the site, 190 kilowatts, given how full the site is, unless everyone's just full charging quite a bit. So we're going to charge up while I do this video, and then we'll probably take off. So here you guys can see the version 3 side of the North Lake supercharger. We've got 3 cabinets there. We have the switchgear, we have the transformer. I believe that's 1,000 kVA. Let's take a look. But this is 12 stalls. 10 of them are in use right now, which is quite a few. This site is very consistently busy, I'd say, in my experience. So we have a 1600 amp switchboard, and we have a 1,000 kVA transformer. It's my car, of course. And let's walk over to the new part of the installation. It smells like Krispy Kreme donuts for some reason. Too bad there's not a smell-o-vision for you guys to be able to smell that as well. You can see the distribution cabinet there. Then we've got the 3 version 3 cabinets, or version 3.5 if you want to get technical. There's the secondary connection, so that's going to the distribution channel or distribution cabinet there. Looks like we have 5 parallel runs of, looks like maybe 500 MCM copper, I think, something like that. And here we have the V4 pedestals installed. So looks like they've finished some of the curb work. You can see the precast bases. You can see the ADA stalled there because the handles on version 4 and on version 3 actually are too high for ADA unless they're installed at lot grade, which is a very strange design choice by Tesla, but something they have to deal with nonetheless. So let's come over here. Seems a little strange that they put them facing that way. Huh. I would have probably done it the other way to just be able to have it swing right into the Tesla port, if you will. So you would just grab it, put it that way, but I guess they want it that way for some reason. I'm not entirely sure why. Looks like they have 3 more to install. Those should be standing up over here, I would think. Yep, looks like we've got those right here. Just sitting on the pallet. So they look the same as the Tryon Street ones like we saw earlier today. Over here we've got the completely empty Rivian site. And looks like we've got the bollard covers over here. We have some bollard rebar. Looks like that's for around the equipment rather than around the superchargers themselves, since Tesla doesn't do those around superchargers anymore. Not sure what we've got there. A trash can and something else. And then here we have the Rivian site, which is, I've never seen more than 1 Rivian charging here at a time. I do see the level 2s used fairly frequently, but those are free, so it makes sense that people would use them. But the Rivian chargers are paid now, but no non-Rivians can use them, which is really just kind of silly. They really should just open them up already, even if you have to use the Rivian app. Seems like a good opportunity for Rivian to get people to download the Rivian app, even if they don't have a Rivian, if they can use these chargers. 36 cents a kilowatt hour, 50 cents a minute idle time, max 300 kilowatts. That seems like maybe not the best design to have that all scratched up. Still strange that these don't have cable management on them, especially considering they're designed to have that as an option. Not really sure what's going on there. And then here we still have this piece of plywood over the additional cabinet spot that they built into this site. And it's seen better days than when it was originally there. So they actually have this cabinet or the conduit stub ups under there to add an additional cabinet. So we'll head back to the version 3 supercharger, and then we'll head to the other south end side of Charlotte's supercharger top off, and then I'll leave you guys there. We charged 15 to 63, now 64% in 21 minutes, so now the time to head to South Charlotte. Plugged in on the version 2 here in the Torrington Way supercharger. We are doing a handshake. 41 cents a kilowatt hour. I'm just going to charge up to 80% while I just kind of organize my car a little bit and see how much it ramps up. There's only one other car here, so we shouldn't be sharing power or anything. And the other car is not next to me, of course. So, looks good to me. Here are our final stats. 419 miles driven, 123 kilowatt hour, and 294 watt hour per mile. So, pretty good as far as I'm concerned, below our lifetime efficiency. Overall, enjoyable day on the road. Unfortunate that we didn't manage to get the Virginia Been There mug, but we did get the ornament, so I guess that works. Still want to try to find the full-size one, but that'll have to be on another trip. Anyway, if you guys have any questions, post them down below. If you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. See you guys on the next one. Thank you guys for watching.